our series, Treating Wastewater at Correctional Facilities, what challenges we may encounter and the solutions available on the marketplace today. Specifically, how engineers and owners can prevent problems caused by overtaxed systems within correction facilities with specialized equipment on the marketplace today. We'll be running a live question and answer at the end of the webinar, so we have enabled Zoom's Ask a Question feature. It is on the right-hand side of your screen, so if you have any questions, just enter them there. Randy Dow is joining me today to facilitate those questions and provide any backup I may need. To ensure questions were exceeded and to allow us to continually improve, we would appreciate a short survey at the end of this webinar. My name is Scott Griffith. I am the Central Regional Sales Manager here at Hydro-Dyne Engineering. I have an environmental engineering degree from the University of Central Florida and have been in the water and wastewater industry for my entire career. I started my career with the GC local here in the Southeast, building water and wastewater treatment plants, and came to Hydro-Dyne 3 years ago. But today we're going to be discussing the unique challenges found within the correctional facilities, what technology is in place today to deal with those unique challenges. We're going to then go into Hydro-Dyne's offering for these unique challenges. And at the end of the webinar, we'll dive into 2 case studies highlighting the challenges faced by these municipalities and how Hydro-Dyne was able to help. Once again, at the end of the webinar, we'll hold a short question and answer session to answer any questions that you may have. But first, who is Hydro-Dyne? Hydro-Dyne is thought of as a traditional manufacturer. In this sense, we control the fabrication process from start to finish. Sales, engineering, project management, fabrication, and our service department is all located under 110,000 square foot facility here in Clearwater, Florida. We are an ISO 9001 certified company, which ensures the highest quality product to our end users. Our research and development team are always providing innovative solutions for each application and is always improving on our existing equipment. Hydro-Dyne is thought of as a global company and has installations all over the world. But why are we here? We're here to discuss the challenges of treating wastewater at correctional facilities. Equipment must be able to handle a wide range of solids, including contraband, sheets, towels, shoes, and clothing. A couple years ago, I actually had the opportunity to talk in detail with an operator at a wastewater treatment plant in Louisiana that was directly downstream of a correctional facility. And he actually told me that they received a lot of at the end of these sheets and pretty much told me that that's how each other, by putting the sheets to talk to one another. So obviously this application and that correct directly after that correctional facility, we're having to deal with it at their wastewater treatment facility. Correctional facility equipment has to handle high peaking flows into high solid certain pieces of equipment. Downtime is not acceptable. Downtime at any point can cause a high impact on downstream treatment plants and or pump stations. How does this impact screening equipment? Difficulty in offloading, damage or wear out, jam or wear on action, a few. Correct screening equipment. Typically, this equipment is installed at unmanned remote sites, and if the equipment fails, operators may deal with unexpected overflows. Owners and engineers should evaluate available technologies to ensure the right equipment is picked for the application. In this next section, we'll evaluate a few of the technologies available on the marketplace that are typically found. We'll discuss 4 technologies. We'll discuss grinders, inclined spiral screens, multi-rake screens, and finally through-flow slotted band screens. In this next section, we'll evaluate each of these technologies with a set of evaluation criteria. We'll discuss average lifespan, maintenance, equipment's ability to handle large solids, equipment's ability to handle instantaneous flow, cost analysis, footprint, and screening 6mm opening. The first we'll discuss is the grinder. This piece of equipment is usually installed at a 90-degree orientation and has an average lifespan of 3 to 5 years, at which point it will require a major rebuild or replacement of the grinder core. We discussed earlier, in correctional facility applications, these are prone to high solid loading rates and very large solids. This can lead to this piece of equipment to heavy and periodic maintenance. This equipment is able to handle those large solids. But because we're mastering solids and not removing the solids, typically this equipment has to have large horsepower motors. This equipment has a capital cost. However, after evaluation, operation and maintenance cost, this piece of equipment is considered to be a high-cost piece of equipment. The biggest takeaway is the lack of capture. This equipment does not remove solids, but grinds them into smaller, more manageable solids. This becomes problematic for end users and operators because these solids may find their way into downtown pump stations at a wastewater treatment facility. The next technology is typically installed at a 45 to 60 degree angle and has a lifespan of 5 to 10 years. This screen operates by having typically a rounded perforated plate. Sorry about this, a little technical difficulty. But this screen typically has a rounded perforated plate grid that sits static in the channel flow. As solids come into the screen via the influent channel, solids mat on the perforated plate grid. When the screen gets a call to run, the geared motor rotates a shaftless auger paired with a stiff nylon brush on the outer edge of that shaftless conveyor, scrapes the solids off of those perforated plates, transports those solids up and out of the channel into a waste disposal receptacle. This is thought of as a combined screening unit, wherein is the screen and the compactor are combined into one unit. There is a lot of maintenance associated with this type of screen. Typically, every 5 years, the shaftless auger and the grid have to be replaced especially in correctional facility applications, due to the high solids demand and the presence of heavy solids. This equipment is not designed to handle these large solids. Sheets can become wrapped around the shaftless auger, and this equipment is not able to handle those high instantaneous flows. Typically, this equipment is paired with a perforated plate grid, which has very small grid openings. The initial capital cost of this equipment is low. However, looking at that 10-year life cycle cost, it really increases the overall cost of this equipment to a high cost value. When looking at the screening capture rate, we estimate this screen will remove approximately 35 to 40% of the influent solids, and that is assuming that the brush is making good contact with the grid and there are no large holes in the grids to allow solids to bypass. The next screen we will talk about is the multi-rake screen, which is typically installed at an 80-degree angle perpendicular to the influent flow. Typically, we have a static bar rack that sits within the channel and allows solids to mat on that static grid. When the screen gets a call to run, a geared motor then rotates rakes around the perimeter of the screen, which then engage to that static bar rack, scrape solids off of that grid, and transports them up to the head section of the screen for dry offloading. Overall, this system is considered a low maintenance screen. However, depending on the manufacturer, some of those manufacturers may require lower submerged sprockets or submerged bearings, which will add maintenance to the system. This equipment is designed to handle some of those larger solids and rags by way of the rakes. However, this equipment does not handle high instantaneous loads due to the spacing of the rakes and the cleaning elements. This equipment has an initial capital cost, is low. However, once again, after evaluating the 10-year life cycle costs, factoring in the operation and maintenance, this equipment is considered a high cost analysis. It's important to note that while this piece of equipment is considered a high cost, it is much lower than that of a grinder or a spiral screen. When looking at screening capture rates, this piece of equipment is estimated to remove roughly 35 to 40% of the influent solids. The final screen we will discuss is the slotted band screen. Installed at a 75-degree angle, typically, and perpendicular to the influent flow, solids are allowed to come and mat on top of the grid. When the screen gets a call to run, a geared motor then rotates that grid and those solids out of the channel flow without disturbing the solids, up to the head section of the screen where a spray wash bar then offloads those solids into a screening handling system. This piece of equipment is considered low maintenance. However, this equipment does require spray wash for offloading. This equipment is able to handle those large solids by letting the solids actually sit on top of the grid and transporting them out of the channel flow and offloading them at the head section. It's important to note that the solids mat in the channel is not disturbed until it is removed from the actual process flow. This screen is also able to handle high instantaneous flow because as the screen rotates, it's removing dirty grid and replacing it with clean grid. This screen does have a higher initial capital cost. However, when considering the overall lifespan and the long-term maintenance, this screen offers the lowest cost offering of the screening technologies discussed. The most important criteria for this type of screen is the screening capture rate at 60 to 65%. It's important to understand that this piece of technology will get the solids out, so rags and the other disruptive solids will not clog pumps or overwhelm any downstream processes. It is important for owners and engineers to properly evaluate all technologies based on the application and owner's expectations. As you can see from the graph, comparing the different technologies, the slotted band screen is the best overall selection for correction facilities. Based on the high average lifespan, the low overall maintenance, the ability to remove large materials, the ability for the screen to handle those high instantaneous flows, low 10-year cost analysis, small footprint, and most importantly, that high screening capture rate. The Hydro-Dyne Bull Shark through flow screen is our standard offering for correctional facility applications. As you can see here in the animation, as solids come from the influent flow, solids mat on the grid, and a geared motor at the head section of the screen then removes those solids from the channel flow. And at the head section, we have a spray wash bar that are offloading those solids into a screen handling unit. This animation is a little misleading in the fact that it shows a continuously operating band. Typically, we don't want the band to be rotating continuously. We want that grid to sit static within the channel flow to allow solids to mat on the grid, effectively reducing the grid open area. This screen is designed to remove large solids by way of hooks every 8 inches to remove large solids. The solid stainless steel grid is a robust grid option to handle those high solid loadings. The continuous belt screen eliminates the potential for jamming and allows the screen to handle those high instantaneous flows. It's also important to note that all the maintenance of the screen can be done at the head section. This technology does not require submerged sprockets or submerged bearings that need to be maintained. Here you can see a section view of the 6mm stainless steel grid, which is our standard offering for correctional facilities. And obviously, if you have any more information on our proprietary design or our sealing design, please follow up with us. We've done so much to get the solids out of the process flow. What about solids handling? Screen solids are always heavy with wastewater. Left untreated and not dewatered, treatment plants can realize much higher disposal costs due to the weight of the screen material and the water they hold. Washing compactors are specifically designed to collect, condition, dewater, and compact screenings from the most demanding environments. Hydro-Dyne can offer multiple models that are designed for a variety of needs, from simple conveyance to the most sophisticated washing and compaction. All screenings must meet strict landfill requirements, and bagging units can be offered to help reduce the odor from the solids removed from the process flow. Next, we'll look at a video of our white tip shark washing compactor. This unit has been designed to collect, dewater, wash, rinse, compact, and then transport screenings from any screen, launder, or conveyor. As you can see from here from the video, the shafted auger is outfitted with a stiff nylon brush, which allows the unit to keep the drainage section clean, located at the bottom of the unit, to allow free water and organics to flow back into the process flow. Equipment has been designed to meet the following performance criteria: weight reduction up to 80%, screening volume reduction up to 85%, organic removal up to 95%, dewatered screening dry solids up to 40%, and all screenings meet strict landfill requirements determined by the test put forth through the EPA through 9095, the paint filter test. The AR400 auger is designed to handle and process large solids such as paint cans, 2x4s, bricks, and rocks without jamming or shutting down. Finally, we'll look at two installations where Hydro-Dyne was able to come into the plant, understand the situation, and provide a solution to get positive results. The first installation we look at is in Ohio, where the owner was experiencing trash obstructing pumps and completely blocking their existing screens, causing them to overload. The solution, Hydro-Dyne was able to come in and offer 2 bull shark through flow screens and 2 white tip shark washing compactors. These screens were installed in 2005, and since that installation date, the plant has experienced no overflows, no issues, and no breakdowns. The maintenance of the pump station has dramatically been reduced because the overall capture from these screens has increased. The second installation we'll look at is in Louisiana, where the operator saw an improvement overnight. The situation, the operators had an existing climber screen, which was not unloading properly. Operators were continually pulling out solids from their treatment plant clarifiers multiple times a day. I was lucky enough to actually go to this installation and see the impact that poor screening had on a treatment facility. Unfortunately, this plant did not have any headworks screens at their treatment facility, so any solids that were making their way through the existing climber screen were making their way down to their treatment facility. Hydro-Dyne provided our bull shark through flow screen, outfitted with a 6mm lace link grid, and our white tip shark washing compactor, and the results were dramatic. Solids in the clarifiers were drastically reduced, limiting the time the operator spent removing the floatables from those clarifiers. You could see through testimony from the operators, their maintenance staff was able to become more of a preventative maintenance staff than a reactive maintenance staff. Hydro-Dyne, it recommends for any correctional facility application the bull shark through flow screen paired with its 6mm lace link grid. That lace link grid offers a high hydraulic throughput, a durable grid surface to handle those high volume loadings and be able and have the capability to remove those larger solids. However, it's important to consider the long-term purchase of equipment. Many of the equipment that we discussed earlier have that low initial capital cost. However, after evaluating and running the equipment for 10, 15, 20 years, ultimately that low cost initial equipment can be 2 to 3 times the purchase price of a bull shark through flow screen. Once again, all the equipment coming out of Hydro-Dyne is designed, welded, passivated, assembled, tested, and shipped from our facility in Clearwater, Florida. We welcome you to come to our facility and really understand and see why Hydro-Dyne is the best screening provider on the marketplace today. Thank you for joining us today. As a reminder, we'd appreciate your feedback by completing a short survey at the end of this webinar. If you have any projects or would like to discuss any of the webinar content further, please contact us via our website at www.hydro-dyne.com. Email us at info@hydro-dyne.com or call us at 813-818-0777. And here's our address. Like I said, we always welcome visitors to our facility to see really how Hydro-Dyne is a unique manufacturer on the marketplace today. You can also find us on social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and we're very easy to get a hold of. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Randy Dow, our sales director here at Hydro-Dyne Engineering, who will be reading some of your questions. Randy?
Hey, Scott, nice job. Great overview. Yeah, just really enjoyed the webinar. We do have some questions that have come in. Appreciate those of you that have supplied some of the questions, so we'll get right to them. So how many current correctional facilities use your through-flow screens?
So in the last 10 years, we've installed roughly 30 screens across the U.S., but dating back to 20 years, we have a total of 68 total screens installed at correctional facilities.
All right, great. Can you also provide turnkey solutions?
Absolutely. And actually talking about turnkey solutions, the installation that we just discussed in Louisiana was a turnkey solution. The owner was looking for a quick, easy solution to fix their problems. They came to Hydro-Dyne, and we were able to provide they were able to purchase the equipment directly from us. We were able to provide a technician to go up and assist in the installation of that equipment to make sure that it was up and running and there was limited downtime.
Good. Yeah, we've got another interesting question, and that has to do with providing assistance to service the units. How do we service the units that we have?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, being here local in Clearwater, Florida, and you know, because we are that traditional manufacturer, you know, with our service department being right down the hall, it really gives us a great opportunity to really connect with our end users and make sure that, you know, their expectations are met with that equipment. And we offer service contracts for every equipment that comes out of our door. We recommend those service contracts, especially for those municipalities who may have limited staff on their roster. A technician comes out to the installation, does a full PM check, and makes sure that instead of, it really allows us to be a preventative maintenance piece of equipment instead of a reactive.
All right, thanks, Scott. Just a couple more questions. So where have your screens, if I wanted to see one of your screens, where they've been used for correctional facilities?
Yeah, absolutely. So our screens are mostly installed in Ohio, New York, and California. 40 of the 68 installations over the last 20 years are located in those states. However, we're always looking to expand that installation base and reach new states.
All right. And we've got one last question. I may have missed this during the presentation, but what flow rates can your equipment handle?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. You know, the flow rates of this equipment is really limited by the channel constraints. If we're going into an existing headware, you know, an existing pump station structure or an existing structure, the flow is limited by that structure and by the channel width and the channel depth. However, if we're able to redesign and design a new concrete structure or even provide a new stainless steel tank, we can go to as high of an MGD as the application requires. Typically in correctional facility applications, the flow is lower than you would see in other pump stations, but there really is no limitation on how high of a flow these screens can process.
And we just had another question come in. Can the bull shark screen be used to retrofit facilities that have existing equipment?
Absolutely. That's what this bull shark with the lace link really offers, is that high hydraulic throughput. We've done, going back to both installations we discussed previously, those were both retrofit applications where we were able to come in and replace the existing equipment and offer better performance.
That's all the questions we have. Thank you for everybody for supplying those questions. And Scott, turn it back to you.
Absolutely, and really do appreciate your time today and listening in. Once again, if you have any additional questions or you come up with a question after we finish the webinar, you know, here's our contact